I'm Michael, welcome to Dad Class, the channel that tries to teach you the most helpful things for your current and future parenthood journey. In today's video, I wanted to talk about how I got my baby to sleep through the night. Now, if you're a new parent, there's so many things that you try and a lot of them just don't end up working. And I wanted to share a lot of the products, tips, tricks that my wife and I ended up using in order to get our daughter to sleep through the night and be as comfortable as possible. If you like the video, consider liking and subscribing. I'm going to be making a lot more videos like this in the future that are more geared towards the, new first-time parents that are kind of just winging it and sharing the little tips, tricks, pieces of tech and products that my wife and I ended up using that just made our lives and our baby's life just that much better. So I hope you enjoy the video. Let's get right into it. Now, the first topic that I want to go over is swaddling. Now, the main reason why I want to go over swaddling first is because it's generally the first thing that you're going to end up doing right as soon as you get home from the hospital. This is because swaddling is super useful for babies up until, honestly, can be anywhere from up until the 2 to the 4 month period, but it's as long as your baby cannot roll over from their back to their stomach. Once your baby can roll over from their back to their stomach, you no longer want to swaddle, and I cover that in the next section, dressing for night. Now, with swaddling, me and my wife, we ended up using 2 different types of swaddles. Now, we used swaddle blankets and swaddle sacks. Swaddle blankets, we got so many swaddle blankets from our friends and family during our baby shower, and we used them for about a week. We just didn't like them, and our daughter hated them. She hated that they constricted her legs so much, and they just didn't work for us. We didn't like doing the technique for swaddling, which is annoying. You will get used to it, and if you don't know how to do it, I will leave a link in the description below that kind of teaches you how to do it. The next type of swaddle that my wife and I ended up using when we realized that swaddle blankets just didn't work for us were swaddle sacks. Swaddle sacks are great. We loved swaddle sacks, and we used them up until we swapped to our sleep sack. And they're great because, one, they do a lot of the work for you, and they're super convenient. They're also a lot more comfortable for our baby, at least, because they were a lot less restrictive on her legs. That's because generally the swaddle sacks have a sack part at the bottom where you put their feet in, and it's a little bit more loose. But the main type of swaddle sack is the same as a swaddle blanket, where you want to make sure that your baby's arms are down by their waist, and you basically tuck them in. And swaddle sacks generally have either a Velcro or a zipper that makes sure it's closed and secure as much as possible. The pros for these are that they are convenient. They're really easy to do, especially in the middle of the night when you're basically half asleep and you want to make sure you're doing it right. But the con for them is that they can also become loose if you don't Velcro them the right way. And they're kind of loud because obviously it's Velcro, so if you are trying to unswaddle your baby without really waking them up or startling them, that's, a problem. The main reason why swaddling works is because it allows your baby to feel comfortable, like they're still in the womb, like nice and tight and snug. But the other main reason is it helps prevent a thing called the Moro Reflex. Now, the Moro Reflex, I will have a link in the description below with more information. You can read all about it. But the main gist of the Moro Reflex is it's when your baby startles. It's completely involuntary. They just do it when there's either a noise. They can do it when there's no noise. Their body just will startle and it can wake them up. But by swaddling your baby, having their arms down by their sides, you're actually helping prevent that Moro Reflex and actually allowing them to potentially sleep longer because they won't wake themselves up. Now, dressing for night, even though it sounds similar to swaddling, I believe the real difference lies in the fact that swaddling is mainly for when your baby cannot roll over from their back to their stomach. Once they can, and that's generally around the 2 to 4 month mark, you want to swap to another type of sleepwear. The reason why you want to do this is because if you don't, and your baby can roll over from their back to their stomach, and you're still swaddling them, they can suffer from a thing called SIDS, or sudden infant death syndrome. I'll leave a link in the description below for more information on SIDS and ways you can look for it and help prevent it. One of these kinds of sleepwear is called sleep sacks, or also known as wearable blankets. Now, they're very similar to Swaddle Sacks. The only difference is that their arms are more free to move around. They have a lot more freedom of motion, and once your baby can roll over from their back to their stomach, if this does happen in a sleep sack, they're more likely to be able to, push their head up so that they're not going to suffocate and potentially have a problem with SIDS. The other plus about sleep sacks is that they're usually wider at the feet and the waist, and this means that they can be used for a little bit longer period of time. Now, most sleep sacks are available in around a 6-month span of time, but before you buy them, I would highly recommend that you just check the manufacturer's website and make sure that your baby's size and age is correct for the size of sleep sack that you're going to be buying. Another incredibly useful product that my wife and I ended up getting for our daughter was when she was hitting her sleep regression and she started to teeth. It was the Baby Merlin Magic Sleepsuit. Now, it sounds like a mouthful, but I'll have a link in the description below so you can check out more information on it. And I'll also have a picture of my daughter somewhere in her sleepsuit on the screen here. You can see that she looks absolutely adorable in it. But the main reason why my wife and I stand by this product is just because when she was going through that sleep regression, she was only sleeping for like 2-hour spans, and it was killing us. But the second that we put her in that sleepsuit that night, she slept for, I believe it was 6.5 hours, and me and my wife, we were just blown away. And that's what she's still sleeping in to this day, and she'll probably continue to sleep in for the next month or two. And then at about the 6-month mark, we'll reevaluate her sleeping situation, make sure that she is sleeping through the night. And if she is, probably take her out of it. But if she's not, we'll probably just end up getting the 6 to 9 month size in the Baby Merlin Magic Sleepsuit. The one main disclaimer that I would say about the Magic Merlin Sleepsuit is that you want to make sure that you're following the requirements for the size. And I'll have a link in the description below for their FAQs, which go over more in detail what those requirements are. But in general, you want to make sure for their smallest size that your baby is at least 3 months of age and at least 12 pounds. It sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? Why do I want there to be sound while my baby's sleeping? And that's a really good question, and I had the exact same question. But when me and my wife were actually researching the best ways to get our baby to sleep and the best ways to get her to relax, one of the main things that came up was using a sound machine. The sound machine that my wife and I ended up going with was the Hatch Rest. Now, it's great. It has 11 preset sounds. It has a built-in nightlight. You can control it from an app, and it works great for us. We use the rain sounds. It helps our baby fall asleep. It helps us fall asleep, but if you don't want to spend the money, they have plenty of free alternatives on either Google Play or the App Store where you can try them out. You can try out different sounds, make sure that they work for you. And then if you want to end up buying something, I highly recommend the Hatch Rest, but you can feel free to look at any other types of sound machine products out there and just see if they end up working for you. The types of sounds that you want to use on your sound machine are the ones that are more of a constant and rhythmic sound, kind of closer to like white noise. My wife and I, we actually use rain sounds, which we have been using even since before our daughter was born, but we ended up using it while our daughter was sleeping, and she ended up really liking it, so we actually ended up sticking with it. The reason why rain sounds or any type of white noise really helps your baby fall asleep or even helps you fall asleep is just because that constant and rhythmic sound help your brain slowly, unconsciously relax and actually pushes you towards that state of sleepiness. Something else that I wanted to mention in this section is closely related to a sound machine, and that's called a Shusher. Now, all a Shusher is either a product or an app that makes a constant shush sound throughout the night for your baby to listen to. The reason why this shushing sound works for babies is because it reminds them of their mother's womb and the blood that's flowing through it. It actually mimics the sound that it makes, and it helps them relax and get into that comfortable state of mind that allows them to fall asleep easier. Now you can buy separate Shusher products, and I'll leave a link in the description below for the specific one that my wife and I were going to use, but I suggest just trying a free app just because it's going to do the exact same thing and you don't have to spend the money on it. And if you really, really want to, after you used it, really found out that it works for you and your baby and you want to buy it, you can try out the product instead and see if that works better for you. So while this topic sounds really straightforward, I know a ton of parents that I've talked to that don't actually do this or didn't actually do this right from the start with their baby. And right before our daughter, my wife and I go to bed, we make sure that our daughter is fed and has a clean diaper. This is super helpful, especially for making sure that your baby's not going to wake up essentially like an hour right after you go to bed. And it can really suck in the first couple weeks while you get used to it because you're going to be really tired because there's going to be times where you don't know your baby's schedule, you don't know when they are going to eat, and sometimes you have to push off going to bed until 11, 12 o'clock at night to make sure that your baby has the most amount of time on a full stomach and a changed, clean diaper. The last thing you want to do is not change their diaper, not feed them right before bed, go to bed at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and then wake up at 11 because your baby's hungry. By feeding them and changing them right before bed, you can ensure that the most amount of time will pass before they wake up again by being hungry or having a wet diaper. So the last topic that I wanted to go over is separating day from night. Now, this was one of the most important things that my wife and I ended up doing, and we really came up with this plan even before we had our daughter. The idea was to have some sort of routine for ourselves that we could essentially teach our daughter that she would know the difference between naps and bedtime. This really helped us separate those periods throughout the day for our daughter where there was only certain things that we would do at night and we wouldn't do those for a nap, so that way it would click in her brain and she would say, "Oh, hey, it's time for bed. I gotta go to sleep now." And the main things for that was that at night, it was dark, she was in her sleep suit, we had the sound machine on, we had the Shusher going, and there was no sounds. Like there was no talking or TV or anything like that. I hope you enjoyed all the things that me and my wife ended up doing to help our baby sleep through the night, and I hope they help you. If they do, let me know down in the comments of what worked for you. I am really genuinely curious of if any of this stuff that we did, you also did, and it really made that big of a difference for you. And if you tried them, they didn't work, or if you didn't do any of this and you tried something else, also let me know. I'm really curious to see just all the different types of ways that people are parenting and the different types of things that people do to help their baby sleep through the night. So if you like the video, if you don't mind liking, subscribing, I'll be making a lot more videos like this in the future, and I'll catch you in the next one.